4:46 p.m. I guess we'll go around the room and do introductions. Shane Blazer, the person.
Joe Zerflu, Alderperson.
Deb Cagle, interim HR.
Sue Show, city attorney.
Steve Shepro, city assessor.
Cindy Schlichting, finance.
Zach Ruick, mayor.
Tom Reynolds, Alderman.
All right. So our first item on the agenda is review the current assessment technician position and consider modifications thereto as a result of an upcoming retirement, and consider and approve a position description and compensation for the position if modified.
I'll start off with and others can chime in. The assessor tech announced mid-December that she was planning to retire shortly after the new year, and since that time there's been some recalculation of time off and when Karen would officially retire. She her last working day was last Thursday.
Yep.
And so, as everyone knows, we contract for assessment services with Steve's firm, and Steve came to us right after she surprised us, I guess, with her announcement that she was going to retire, with a general proposal that recognized continued need for assessment tech services and responsibilities within the office, whether it's personal property tax, reviewing the sales information that comes through to the assessor's office, as well as some of the permit review as permits get pulled in the city, so that way the assessor can pick that information up as part of the assessment information. And then with the proposal basically entailed some overlap and support. Previously the city took the permit technician responsibility in the community development office and made a paraprofessional position for a community development specialist. That person still assists with permit applications and some of the filing of information at the counter, but at that time the department made the decision to restrict or to slide back its counter hours, primarily for contractors and others to be pulling permits online, and that has gone well. But I think from a customer service standpoint, other departments see the brunt of the fact that the window is closed during certain periods of the week. Assessment, parks, engineering. So Steve came after discussing with some of the staff on second floor, as well as a discussion that I had with him, that proposed that we consider kind of a combined shared position, that it primarily would still service the assessment needs for this from a technician or a counter perspective, taking messages for Steve and relaying communication, and doing all the other work, but also assisting the community development office with permit applications. In the 2020 budget process, Adam, who was then community development director, proposed that we hire a permit technician. At that time, we didn't feel that there was, one, maybe the tax levy space to do that, and two, he was leaving, and we really wanted to let the next person address that. But with the retirement and Steve's proposal, felt like it was maybe a great opportunity to look at, maybe take a step back and look more broadly between those two offices, and fill the position, but make some tweaks to ultimately to the job description that would account for some assistance with the community development office. A lot of that work is seasonal. Personal property, there's a window of time between now and May where that work is really going to become a priority. It happens to be somewhat of the downtime for the permit pulling and the contractor activity in community development. So it seemed like there was some nice overlap between availability of personnel and again, to get that counter open when City Hall is open for business. So we're not restricting, and again, providing a better service hopefully to the public, that City Hall is open, that people can get permits and pull permits and ask questions, that type of thing. The contract with our assessor, also unrelated but connected to this work, runs through this year, and Steve and I had some conversation about approaching the city with some form of an extension at some point when it's appropriate. It runs through the middle of the year. But we wanted to make sure Steve was, before we made any major changes to this position and thought about the future of the office, we kind of want to know what the role of our contractor will be in the relationship we'll have with him as well. And so Deb was brought in to the discussions to look at Steve's job description that he shared, as well as the past assessors, the past community development office administrative assistant's position to bring those pieces together, and just yesterday, we were able to share a draft with me.
Right.
So, we can.
And it's,
share
again,
that.
it's just in a draft form, so.
I was gonna ask if you had one, cause I was just looking at the packet.
And Steve, maybe you can, explain where the origin of the job description was at you shared it with me, but maybe you wanna share it with the others. The job description that you prepared for the assessor's tech was based upon duties and things that Karen had been doing in that role, and then.
Well, what we did, we took the existing job what we had, and then one thing did help out is Karen put together a monthly breakdown of what the job responsibilities are throughout the month. So training the next person will help understand what they will be. And then just kind of shifted a little bit to inspections, to take care of the windows for both windows. Basically, it would take care to keep them open. And I just think, we can work it out. The little shift that we're gonna have is because of the training and experience, all the sales, all the deeds, all that stuff will be back to me again, where Karen took that on. As she got better and better at things, she just took more and more on, and so it's definitely a change, but I see it could work pretty well, I think. And I think it's the two departments that work closely. I mean, I did look at clerk's office, I did look at engineering, I looked at the park, what other department would work, and I think actually Joe Terry was the one that suggested even, so. And I think it makes sense, and.
A lot of the activity in code enforcement or inspection department ultimately rolls into your department anyways.
And I think the customer service part of it is a plus, right now without Karen here, it's tougher because I'm out in the field, but we see the same thing that happens in there, and I think you wanna free up your inspectors and not have to sit there and wait for a window for somebody to come in for bid. I think, like you said, I think most of the online stuff has worked out pretty well, but you still get people that come in that don't, and it's always kinda tough to answer them questions, but I think with another person there, we cover it that way, and I don't see a problem with it. I think at this point, everything that we do pretty much in assessment has been evolving, I guess, with the software, and makes it easier and easier all the time. Every reval we've done, it gets a little bit better. I think this year was the toughest one because they gave us a 5% bump, but, that's not something we're used to in Rapids, but,
And if I could add, I took what you had put together, and just tweaked it a little bit and then added permitting wording. So that's probably the difference that you didn't have in yours is some of a little bit more in depth on the permitting stuff, and then looked around in some of the other communities just on a title, and some of their permitting is really more a general title like administrative. So, as a recommendation of administrative technician or administrative specialist, so that you're not specific to say what department it is in. It's pretty common out there, so that's where hence the administrative specialist or technician does kind of align with what other communities are doing too. And that salary grade 5 really aligns with some of the duties, roles, responsibilities with other positions at that level. The incumbent was at a 7, but they were doing a lot more of the things that you talked about, a lot more in depth in what they were doing and responsibility and things like that then. So.
And I think the other difference would be that position was 32 hours a week. The previous incumbent was 32 hours a week. We're looking at 40 hours full-time for this position. That would be the other change, I think, that didn't get mentioned. So budgetarily, the 5 to the 7, and I don't know how final your review of that is, but financially, the pay differential and then the additional hours, it's somewhat of a wash or even a net gain.
Well, looking in Marshall and some of the other communities, the individual with that is at 8, the minimum is 18 in that grade, and for grade 5 minimum here it's 21.54. So it's a pretty significant difference just because of your pay structures, but I look at that and say that's competitive within the structure that you guys have here in Wisconsin Rapids.
questions?
I mean, is this draft ready for action? Or is there still more tweaking?
I have a few questions, though, or if you wanna make a motion, or something on that. So are we carving out inspections out of community development? So the person is still gonna, this person will operate as an administrative person in the inspection department though, but under.
Community development.
Or community, yeah.
Yeah.
So then, but it's supervised by the assessor, or?
I think, I mean, that's
I
the.
think it would probably go under, at some point, the city probably wanna put it under community development. Very possible, I mean, that's up to you, but I would prefer starting out that it would be under my direction to start with, the first
Yeah.
training and knowing. And, you know, like I said, that was only one of my concerns was all of a sudden we get the, 30 hours in inspections and I only get 10, that's a tough one. I don't
Right.
see that happening, I think I think what we discussed and I think it's gonna be fine.
The difficulty, I think, is the contractor relationship we have with the city and supervising, and
Right.
not that that's been a real problem, it just creates that unique reporting relationship. Yeah, so the absence of having a staff member to report to, the idea perhaps in the future could be that it changes, and I don't know if that is an issue from.
And that's why I said you wanna
No.
put under community development, it's fine until,
Right.
you can have Ray over or something.
But I guess is the person going to be sitting in the assessor's office, or sometimes might be, and then sometimes might be over by permitting, or?
My plan was to move Karen's desk over to inspections.
Okay.
And then I talked to Ray a little bit in there and the inspector would like to put maybe a couple tables up in the open area by where I'm at now, in that open area. And to review plans and we could leave things set up and leave that window right closed. We would just move the sign down to inspection and have them both right there. And that's right across from Craig and Engineering, so I think it keeps everything right together. A lot of people don't know we're even down there sometimes, and I think that might be a plus. And the biggest thing would be, I think, for the new community development, or I'm sure the inspectors can do that, but the kind of training with zoning and setbacks and how to do a permit maybe or something like that. But because that's always been a tough one because they ask us, and I don't get in the middle of that because that's I don't want to give a wrong answer on that, but. So I think it's gonna be, for now, that probably that window, there's not much sense of leaving it open at this point because everybody comes off the elevator or whatever is gonna be right there. And a lot of municipalities that I do work in or that I have worked in, they do tend to have a central location as a receptionist type of person and then all the, the inspections, community development, the assessors and everybody, even park, is all behind the scene. And then basically they just forward that message on, and it's kind of what it is, but it's only for 2 offices.
I guess I was just wondering, cause it says draft, I mean, is there still, do you still wanna tweak this at all?
I just put it in draft because it hadn't been finalized,
Okay.
so with any feedback, and we can just remove draft if everybody's comfortable with it.
You may wanna, I think in the purpose, it just says permitting process. I don't know if there's a more encompassing line there that would be permitting, zoning, kind of anybody that's pulling. I mean, we could list conditional use permits, you could list all of those, but is there maybe a more general term or phrase?
And it's all permitting, yeah. Just add something like all permitting.
Yeah, and are they
there, there's-
responsible, or are they more, or would they be assisting with?
I think the person would be working with Madeline and the inspectors in Ray.
Right.
So
Ray
more
mentioned that he could definitely use somebody that could help out,
And the administrative,
times.
yeah.
They do their all letters, they do everything else, but one of the things that Karen was very big on, and we do with inspections is the addresses and names. And you send out something that comes back because they moved or whatever. And so Karen always kept that up, and then Ray has Market Drive, our software, on his computer. What I didn't realize is since Adam left, we would send him a file every month. I think he started out every quarter, but every month we would send him a file, and then he would update their software. Well, nobody kinda, in that department, nobody really thought of it, so what Ray has been using is kind of outdated, so now we could do this, we're doing it now because, we're doing it again, but, and getting it to him. And I think, I just talked to Madeline, she was gonna talk to Adam about it and see how he did the download. So we'll send him the data and he updates the information, so I think the person coming in, that's their main responsibility, is just basically assist both
Assist.
departments.
Mhm.
You know, for now, and then, you know, if, whatever, you know, I'm sure you can always grow in it, you know, they can take over the assessment duties or something.
She gave me correct addresses, but I only couldn't even find them.
Yeah. And you can call her in Arizona, you could probably get them information if you want.
I'll just go down there and see her,
Yeah.
okay? I'll just, take them all.
So maybe the word would be this position assists with the permitting process and.
And supporting other community development activities,
Yeah.
something like that.
Tom, do you have any thoughts or questions?
No.
Okay.
Make a motion then to, approve the assessment technician position modifications as outlined in the draft with the, additional verbiage.
I'll second it. So we have a motion and a second to approve the administrative technician draft job description. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
With grade, compensation at the grade
Oh, I'm sorry,
5.
yeah, I was gonna say
Yep.
grade 5,
Oh.
correct.
I guess it's in the job description.
But no, that's correct. And then maybe just to have it updated or a final draft or a final.
Failed to find.
Or a council. Okay, next item is consider a change to the sick and paid leave policy, removing the requirement that an employee must use 1 week of sick leave or other paid leave before the city provides paid leave for a second week of family member leave. See attachment.
So, they all had the attachment, that
Correct.
that-
I believe so.
okay.
Yep, we have that.
So what, as I looked at this, the way that it's worded right now is the employee will first be required to use 1 week of sick leave before the city will provide that paid leave for the second week. So in essence, they're gonna be gone 2 weeks, so they can get that second week of FMLA leave. So it really almost encourages them, let's just say that your spouse goes out and has surgery and they might be able to be back in a week, that the doctor's gonna rely on it, so the doctor's gonna say, how much time do you need, and they'll say 2 weeks, so they're gonna be gone. So either way, they're using that paid time. So as a more positive, if you have that where you have a serious health condition for a family member or someone, I'm just recommending, let's just say they have up to 1 week of time, which they do, and eliminate the requirement of having to either take unpaid time or substitute paid time in there in order to get that, so.
Cause no matter what, we don't pay for FMLA, they have to use accrued time, correct?
Well, here
Right,
you do.
Other than for that is a week,
Right,
that kind of an additional week just for family member and,
right,
yeah.
yeah. So here you're saying that you
Otherwise
are
they
paying them it.
substitute, right.
Correct.
And it was always that you had to take, we said, you have to take, we make them take some of their leave first before that second week, but, as Deb said, then, let's say it's only a 1 week leave, well, kinda get that second week kind of for free paid, and is it encouraging people to maybe extend their leave a little bit? And the other thing that came up was, well, what if they have already exhausted all their sick leave, and then what if they just have 1 day left or other, and it kind of was confusing in some circumstances of what that exactly meant. And then I guess the third thing, really, when you look at it, it's not used.
Right.
Maybe 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, I think there was
so-
3 people last year that used it.
And
Hmm.
it's really, it's not, certainly not taking anything away from the employees, and it's actually probably, you know, an enhanced benefit, but in the long run, I think it, you know, it might actually be better for the city to.
There's the perception then is you're not requiring them to take that week. And from a financial standpoint, you're paying it anyway, so there's no additional
Right.
cost. But just from a goodwill to say, well, you know, this is one of those and it's a serious health condition type of thing, and we would all like to try to get people back sooner than later. And it did come up where an individual's spouse had some surgery and they were gone 2 weeks, and their comment was, well, if I would've known, because I already exhausted my leave for something else that was gonna happen, I would've come back in a week. So there's more positive in the goodwill that it would be of, and trying to mess around to just track if they've taken it for any other reason, cause if they have a child that year and then for a reason there's a serious health condition, it's gone, so then there's an unpaid week to get that paid week, so.
I'm a bit confused, but, so the benefit, so what's the benefit that we pay for sick leave? Or
Well,
how,
this is just for a family member or.
under family medical leave, but.
Right.
Yeah, just for a family member. The personal sick leave is what,
Yeah,
the
just
10
changed.
days.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, oh, okay, I
Yeah,
remember.
you used to
And then
have-
for.
I remember, okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
It's outside of that.
Right, it's outside, and you don't
Mhm.
typically see where you offer a week of paid FMLA in addition to them being able to substitute it. So it's the first time I've really seen that as a policy, and I'm not recommending that you
you should have been
necessarily
here
take
a
that
few years
away.
ago to see what
Oh,
it
I
was.
know, I looked at this, I'm like, wow,
It was-
I wanna come
it
and
was
work here.
unlimited for
Right.
everyone.
Right, so,
Yeah.
you know, we don't wanna necessarily take away something that's
Right.
already there,
No,
but
definitely not,
just
but-
to say, to have to use that first week, whether it's unpaid or their own cause they're gonna get paid that vacation time anyway.
Mhm.
So it isn't, and there's no additional cost to the city, it'd be far easier to just do it, and people might only take, 3 days, 4 days, because if we say up to, they could have multiple, let's say I need 3 days this time, and then all of a sudden somebody else later in the year, I might get that additional 2 days, so it's more user friendly for them, and we had 3 people use it last year.
And that all changed with, when we went to the 10 days a year or
Right.
whatever.
Right, that
Okay,
was an
and then
18.
that,
Yep.
I remember now.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's almost like removing the
Encourage-
incentive to have to use a paid week.
yeah.
Yeah, like,
Right.
you know, if they wanna use a week, great, instead of having to use 2 weeks, I think that was the issue with the one
Right,
circumstance.
get them back to work a little
It
sooner.
wouldn't have taken 2 weeks if you didn't have to.
Right, no, that makes sense.
I'll move to approve the change.
I'll second it. So a motion and a second to make the changes to the sick and paid leave policy as outlined. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed, motion carried. And update on recruitment.
HR sent me just a list so for everyone's benefit, we can walk through that, and then Deb can talk about some of the things she's actively involved in. Police, they're working through their renewed eligibility list, interviews. Fire is currently accepting applications. The street supervisor position was reposted, and they're accepting applications until January 20th.
Is that for the opening that just occurred?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, the one right after the first of the year,
Okay.
yeah, around the
Okay.
4th or so.
So so we have to go outside now, or? could it be
We
internal,
did,
or-
they did it at the same time. They
Oh.
did both internal and
Oh,
external at the same
perfect.
time, yeah.
Move it
It's-
along.
So that'll be, at this point, they're planning to post it until, it was extended, I believe,
Okay.
a week maybe. So January 20th. Executive coordinator position, with an open deadline date. They're in the process of reviewing the applicants. It sounds like that would, based upon the applicant pool, that'll close very soon. The partnerships engagement intern, we really haven't had very limited number of applicants thus far, not a lot of interest. And Deb can talk about the director of HR and the community development director. We didn't put a deadline on that position. We did do a round of phone screens for that position that didn't unfortunately generate any second round candidates. partially due to some withdrawal of an application and just other candidates not advancing. Alternate school crossing guard is also, looks like their vacancy will be filled, and then ice pond attendant, I think that's one they're looking for some evening shifts, so they're having a tough time finding anybody taking that for the Mead Field ice pond. And then maybe you wanna talk about the human resources.
Yeah, in addition, we have that street superintendent.
That's the street
That's-
supervisor one that I
street
mentioned,
supervisor,
yep.
okay.
Mhm.
And then, we did get a request, Joe Terry and I are gonna talk on Friday for the engineer on some consolidations of
Oh,
some stuff.
right.
It's not far enough along, but he's looking at some things, so I wanna get more information
Yep.
before, but that could be some potential of taking some intern types of positions and some other ones and trying to
Right.
create a full-time position, so,
Mhm. Yeah, and that one
we'll
came
chat
through
about that.
the budget process at the very end.
Right.
And it didn't, it
Right.
didn't meet city policy of having to have that request to HR by June 1st or something like that, so.
Right,
yeah,
so we're
that's
just
one
gonna
that's-
revisit that, I don't know where that's gonna go, but,
Mhm.
as far as HR director, we did, I did the screening, we actually had 2 candidates come on site last week.
Mhm.
So Joe helped us with that, we as a committee ruled out one of the candidates, just concerned more about, having passed as an administrator, plus they weren't prepared to even talk about what they learned about the city. So it's like, come to an interview without being able to talk about that. So next week we are talking, with a candidate, and we're still in the process of determining who's all gonna be involved in that interview, from a, leadership group, but they have 12 years of public sector experience, so pretty strong. Never been at the director level, always been one level below, so other than that, there's not really a lot of other candidates in the pool. There's people that have some good HR technical, but they don't have any public sector, so if there's anything you wanna add, so
And
we'll
I think
look
we're
at
still,
them.
it's still out there.
It's still
from
out there
a
because someone
posting
else,
standpoint.
had a call on voicemail of someone looking to fill out an application, so Sarah they were having some trouble contacted, so we should know mid-next week about what next steps we wanna go, if we wanna go further with this person, or we have to circle back and look at something different, so.
Yep. Anybody else? All right, number 5, the committee will go into closed session pursuant section 19.85, parent 1, parent C of the Wisconsin statutes, which reads, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. In closed session, the committee will discuss compensation and benefits for an employee, and the committee will return to open session. So, I'll make a motion that we go into closed session under 19.85(1)(c).
Second.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will be in closed session.
wanna, unless you really wanna.
You're gonna adjourn in closed
I
session
covered it
after
all.
the next item?
I
Or you-
think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Cause Joe asked if
Yeah.
he could just,
Yeah.
leave after you go
Yeah.
into close the next time.
yeah. All right, we're back in open session. So, we're, in open session, the committee may take action on compensation and or benefits for an employee. Hence,
Sorry. Yeah, we weren't looking for a motion?
yeah, we got,
Okay, well then I'll make a motion to, basically, I guess, not make any changes at this time.
okay, and I'll second that. We have a motion and a second to leave the compensation as is at this time. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Next item, in open session, the committee will vote to go into a closed session under section 19.85, parent 1, parent E of the Wisconsin statute, which reads deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. So in closed session, the committee will receive an update and discuss strategies regarding negotiations and possible interest arbitration with International Association of Firefighters Local 425. With that,
I'll move to go into closed session.
and I'll second that. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye. So we are in closed session again, and we will